There are 4 fundamental skills you must learn as a man to become competent and confident in getting what you want out of life. In this video, I'm going to outline them, and then at the end, I'm going to give you really clear action steps to put into place so that this doesn't just become another YouTube video that you watch and you don't take action. It doesn't matter if you're younger or a bit older. If you don't know these things, then you'll be like I used to be, which was frankly a little bit of a bitch, and we don't want that. If you haven't been here before, my name's Josh, and I've been involved in men's groups and men's initiations for the last 10 years and have built a life I couldn't have dreamed of. And I make these videos so that I can help you avoid pitfalls like I made and I've seen other men make, so that you can go and shortcut the path to your dream life. First and foremost, you need to have a good group of male friends around you. My dad left when I was about 10 years old, and I went from having quite a manly and wise dad in my life who I loved a lot, and he knew how to do a lot of things, was a really good role model. And I went from that to being raised by a pretty insecure and paranoid mum, because my dad cheated on my mum and then just left us. And so my input from life went from being men equal good and reliable to men equal bad and will abandon you. You can probably relate a little bit to that if your dad bailed like mine did, or even if your dad was around but he was pretty absent. And so I distanced myself from male relationships and even male friendships going through high school, and continued to do so until I was an adult. And I actually thankfully came across a men's initiation weekend where I started to make male friends, and really it was a massive turning point in my life. The problem with not having male friends in your life is that you start to have a perception of how the world works through the lens of a woman. And there are fundamental differences between men and women and how we view each other and how we interact socially that can really send you down the wrong path if you're spending too much time with women growing up and even as an adult. And my mum really put herself out there. You know, she was a single mum. She worked really hard to give us the best life she could. But my perspective of how life works came from a woman and not a man. One of the main differences between men and women is how men view other men, and that we actually need to bring value to the table. You have to contribute. You have to bring something to the society and the group that you're a part of, and otherwise you're not valuable. Just because your mum says that I love you just the way that you are doesn't mean that that's true in society for men. Whereas for women, that is true. Women innately have value in them already because they can get pregnant and they can have children. So if you're not around men, then these will get flipped, and your sounding board for life will be completely off, like mine was. Your standards are going to be lower than they should be, and it's a lot harder to push forward and get what you want out of life when you have these women whispering in your ears with all the best intention that you are perfect just the way you are, you're lovable just the way you are, and all of these things. You are lovable as you, but in order to get what you want out of life and to be valuable in society and around men, you have to show up in a different way. Number 2 is knowing how to fight or defend yourself. One of your primary functions as a man is to be able to defend yourself and be able to protect the people that are around you. It doesn't matter how safe you feel in the neighborhood that you live in. You just never know when something could happen. And if something happens and you're not prepared, it's going to go really south really quickly. If you're like I was and think that you can fight and you carry around a lot of aggression in you, like I wanted to get into fights. I was hoping for an altercation. And it wasn't until I went to an MMA gym where I got my ass handed to me by a guy who was 50 pounds or 25 kilos lighter than me. And he just wiped the floor with me. And leaving there, I just thought, what the fuck have I been doing? I've been walking around with a completely warped sense of how reality actually is. This isn't about making sure that you can fight and beat people up. This is about making sure that you can see danger where it is and you can actually get a clear sense of what reality is like. Someone with a month or 2 months of training when you have nothing is going to completely destroy you. It doesn't matter if they're a lot lighter than you. They're going to wipe the floor with you. And if something happens in your life when you're out and about with your woman or with your friends, like I said before, things can go really south really quickly and someone can get hurt. Number 3 is to master your money. This one, unfortunately and embarrassingly, took me the longest to learn. This was a hard lesson that I had to learn repetitively, and I've been broke multiple times. So broke that I was stealing groceries from Whole Foods and other grocery stores. I mean, you know, upper class thief, have to give my body the good stuff from Whole Foods. But it wasn't just from bad circumstances and things happening to me. It was because I didn't manage my money before a bad situation happened. And as we talked about in the fighting scenario just before, stuff happens in life. You never know when something can happen, when someone can die, someone will fuck you over, a family member, you know, gets in trouble. I had a family member get shot a couple of months ago. Like, you just never know. And this is not the world, that's not the world that I grew up in, but it became my responsibility to pay for the funeral and do this sort of stuff. And it costs money. And really, it's like you don't want to get caught again with your pants down being broke, because if you don't start to accumulate a level of safety, you just continue to stay broke and you feel like you can never actually get your right foot forward. So the economy could crash. Things are looking pretty hairy. You never know, but you can actually start to make a change incrementally and put some money aside, and it will completely change the confidence that you walk around with. And fourthly is understanding the differences between men and women. We touched on it in the first point, but really we are different. The way that men view other men and interact with other men is completely different than how society wants us to show up and wants us to be. And it's different to how men view women. And if we don't have our perception right, then we can start to think that we just are valuable because we exist. And that's just not the truth of what it is to be a man. That's not the reality. And by having this veil torn off, which can be quite hard at the start, and it can be kind of a little bit sad if you're still a boy inside and you think that people should just value you because you exist. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's just not the reality, and you'll get squashed, and that's even sadder. So legend, my action steps for you from these four is number 1 and 2 can be wrapped up together if you want them to. But firstly, finding a men's group or joining a fighting gym. That's a 2-for-1 combo. If you join a fight gym, you will get to make some new friends, and the people there are just so down to earth. They're always the nicest people. The people who are the fittest and the strongest and could literally murder you are always the nicest people. And it's a really incredible community that you can join in pretty much anywhere around the world. And if you have that already and you're looking for some deeper relationships, then I'd recommend you go to a men's group. Really easy. You can just Google men's groups in location, the area that you're in, and find something there. Number 2 is having an honest look at your finances. And I don't mean just looking at your bank account. I mean sharing this with a friend and being like, hey man, these are my goals. This is what I want to achieve. And this is where I'm at. And that's a big one that is quite difficult. And I've noticed that even when I've been broke, sharing that number is really difficult. And then I've got a friend who is worth tens of millions of dollars, and it's really difficult for him to share his number. And so we have these restrictions around money. And so I recommend just finding a friend, having a conversation with me like, hey man, this is where I'm at. This is my goal for the year. I want to be held accountable and achieve this, and I'm going to put away X dollars a month. And you can really start to build that foundation and start to build that confidence. The last one is pick up The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. This is essential reading, non-negotiable. Go pick up this book if you haven't read it. It's not politically correct. It's not nice. It's just raw and real, the bare bones of what it means to be a man at an instinctual level of what it means to be a male human being. Not a man how society wants us to be, but a male human being just at that instinctual bare bones level. So go to a fight gym, join a men's group, have a conversation with one of your friends about your finances, and pick up The Way of Men. I hope that helps, man. I'll see you in the next video.